Hello and welcome to Peepul Health, an online platform bringing you live seminars, live workouts, nutritional guidance and advice, and also general and overall information on health and well-being at the Peepul Center. My name is Sumit. I'm the head coach for the gym and spa department, and welcoming me today is our expert dietitian, Khubhu Rawal, and we'll be talking about diabetes and the myths, misconceptions and beliefs about diabetes out there. So let's go straight into it and gain more awareness and insight into it. So Khubhu, welcome. Thank you very much for joining us today. We're talking about diabetes, and most importantly, we want to know what are the myths, misconceptions and beliefs out there. And I believe that I see and I hear a lot that diabetes is because of too much sugars is the reason we get diabetes. Is this related? Is it true, or what is the accurate information here?
I won't say it's not related. It's related, but it's quite funny to say that sugar causes diabetes. It's not actually the case. Diabetes strikes when something wrong happens in the body, actually. Let me explain. Diabetes occurs when something disrupts body's ability to convert the food that you eat into energy. By this we mean that the carbohydrates that you eat are not turning out into energy. So this is obstructing, this is accumulating, and then it's rising the blood sugar levels. Right. So the sugars that you eat in the forms of carbs, they are getting accumulated and not being utilized in the form of energy, but are staying there to rise the blood sugar levels. That's where the diabetes comes in place. So it's not actually as if sugars have caused it, it's the body's ability to not be able to utilize it, and that's when the diabetes strikes. So that inability could be due to many different factors. It could be due to obesity, it could be due to lifestyle. Some people have sedentary lifestyle these days. We are getting more comfortable in lives. So that could be one of it. And eating disorders, bad eating habits, many reasons. They could be hereditary, they could be genetic, anything.
Okay, so upon researching diabetes, obviously it's a worldwide phenomenon, and we see the rise in diabetes every day. And there's so much research out there about diabetes, and if somebody is diagnosed with level 1 or level 2, there are so many rules and regulations. Sometimes this can be confusing. Is that if somebody has got diagnosed, if somebody's just been diagnosed with diabetes, do they need to follow a lot of rules?
Well, that's a misconception that there are too many rules associated with diabetes. As soon as somebody's diagnosed with diabetes, they get a lot of pressure that, oh, it's going to be a strict routine to follow, too many regulations to maintain. But actually, it's not the case. Just planning a diet as to what to eat, and planning it according to your activity level and around your medications, if you are prescribed on medications, then planning a diet surrounding it can not be that challenging at all. And sometimes whatever the little bit changes that you make in your lifestyle could be actually beneficial for the rest of the family as well.
So, as you mentioned, little changes
little changes according to the lifestyle, according to your diet plan, because something was wrong, that's why the diabetes started. So we need to correct it or make a little bit of modified changes. And there are endless opportunities. There are endless substitutes or alternatives that you can do in diabetes. So it's not as if you stick to one single routine and that's it. No, that's not the case. Okay.
And upon obviously my research as well, I came across a lot of dosage manipulation, where a lot of people have, if a lot of people don't understand what this means, is that you can actually manipulate the medication that you've been given from your GP, either have more or less, so that you can, have more food, typically more food. Is this healthy to do? What's your take on this?
It's completely wrong, I would say, because medications are prescribed according to your needs. If you are prescribed some diabetic medications, it's because you are needing that much, because the body is unable to produce that. And that's why the medications are acting as support for you. There are actually mainly two types of insulin. If you're on insulin, yes, you can adjust, because there are mainly two different types of insulin, the long acting and the short acting. So depending upon what you eat or how much are you prescribed to eat, you can adjust the doses. But adjusting too much on your own and just having the medications to cover it or just to stabilize it, it's completely wrong. It's going to have an adverse effect on your body on a long run.
So what could happen if somebody did take too much dosage or not enough dosage?
If you're eating too much and then just stabilizing it with the medications, it's not actually the body is accustomed to. And sometimes you can desire the quantity you want to eat, but how much glucose levels it's going to shoot up, that's not something, if you're not aware of, then whatever the medications you're taking, it might have fluctuating results. It might even go up, it might drop to lowers, and that could be really dangerous.
So then it can, I mean, the dosages can trigger symptoms which we see like blindness
they
and
could,
kidney dysfunction. And
they could trigger, because you could feel dizzy, you could fall down. I mean, you need help at that time. So maybe that's not actually advisable. You are prescribed for a reason.
And then the other misconceptions and myths which I see a lot and which I can also say that they are not true is that you have to give up your favorite foods, and nobody wants to give up favorite foods. And especially when somebody's been diagnosed with diabetes, they think they're so overwhelmed that, oh, I'm not going to be able to eat my favorite foods. You know, what do I do? So, but we both know that, you know, there's a lot of people that you can actually eat your favorite foods. So what would you recommend? Like, you know, how to go about this?
It's true. I mean, people have this belief in mind that if you are diagnosed now, you will have to give up on all the favorite foods. Now you won't be able to eat them. But it's clearly wrong. I would say, I would really like to liberally take the liberty to adjust this term and make it into quantizing the food. Because you don't really have to give up. It's not good. You're affecting your mental health. You don't want to give up on your really favorite foods. But what I would say instead is, if you can adjust the quantity of the food, or maybe find alternatives for the food. If you want to go for cakes, cookies, lollies, don't go for them. Instead, choose healthier options like yogurt or half a banana, or maybe even have a whole wheat or oatmeal cookie instead. And even if you're having your favorite foods, you can have it in moderations. Don't have it every single day. You can have it on occasional days, or maybe use it as an occasional treat for yourself. Having it every single day would still hamper your blood glucose levels. So I won't say just completely give up on the foods, but yes, you can of course have your favorite foods, but in moderation. Once in a while, or maybe if you have your blood sugar levels absolutely in control, it's nothing wrong in having them.
Yes, and this is correct, because we see that a lot of type 2 diabetes patients, along with diabetes, they're overweight and they're obese. So the doctors and GPs have recommended they need to continue to lose their weight. So it makes sense to quantize the food, because they have to always be on a calorie deficit.
Yeah.
So yes. So in terms of this is, I agree. It goes hand in hand. So cool. The other misconception, and the other one which I've noticed lately, is that I've seen a lot of diabetes diet brands.
Yeah.
So this is like special branding for diabetes.
Yeah.
Now, what is this, and does it work? Is there something different in the food? Is it the process? Is there less calories? What is the?
Well, people do believe that just choosing diabetic food or diet food would really help them maintain their normal lifestyle. But this is not the usual actual case. I mean, they would have a label saying diabetic food, but they might be having hidden calories. So here the reading of knowledge about the nutrition label comes helpful. If you know how to read a nutrition label, then it would be really helpful to read what the underlying calories are in certain product. And then you would be very watchful next time when you buy it. So I would say diet foods are actually could cost you fortune sometimes. So rather than going for diet foods, it would be really good if you can choose options that you find in regular stores, and or even make it by yourself. And when we talk about diet food, there are many food products in the market that are actually labeled as low calorie, reduced sugar, or low sugars. But what we need to watch out for is the hidden calories the total
Right.
carbs and the calories in that product.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they only count the sugars. So when they say low sugars, they just count the low sugars that are
right.
added. But what about the total calories in it? The total
Correct.
calories are actually adding the carbs. So that's all inclusive. It includes the protein, calorie. So if you're obese or in a diet for losing weight, then you would have to really be watchful for these sort of products,
calories, yeah.
because they might just fool you by saying low sugars, but at the end of the day, you're still having
more calories,
in it. Yeah.
So it does ultimately, there's another misconception that, you know, you have to have low carbs or
Low
high fat or low fat and more protein, more vegetables. But at the end of the day,
You can liberally have this if your blood sugars are in control. So this is where a diet expert or a doctor can be helpful, can advise you to make a tailor-made diet for you, and then you can assess your nutritional requirement, and on the basis of that we can count calories, the carbs requirement, the proteins requirement for yourself, and on the basis of that we can prepare food exchanges for you. So these food exchanges would really be beneficial, because then you can have alterations, substitutions, so you don't have a monotonous and rigid diet to follow every single day.
Right.
You have options to be able to play around with.
The other thing, Khubhu, I've realized and noticed with diabetes upon the research is that there are a lot of people who've been living with diabetes for a very long time now, and they have they subconsciously through a lot of measuring their blood glucose levels in the beginning have just become so self-aware. Like, do you have to, after a certain point or a certain level of experience and certain level of awareness, need to stop measuring your sugar levels, or is it healthy to continuously check up on your sugar levels?
Keeping an eye on your blood sugar levels is really important. Nowadays, it's easily possible because you get handy measuring devices for yourself to keep at home. You don't actually have to go or visit to a doctor to get your blood sugar levels tested. You can get these handy devices for yourself to keep at home, and you can regularly keep an eye on your blood sugar levels. Keep checking it time to time.
Okay.
So what I would say for this is, like, blood sugar levels after a while would get settled, because if you're having diabetes for a long term, you now know when and what food is good for you. You have developed a lifestyle for yourself. If you're okay with that lifestyle, it's fair enough. But if as and when you need changes in that, we can always make alterations to that. We can take liberty in eating some foods, and we can restrict some of the foods. That would all depend on how much is the blood sugar response of a particular food on your diet.
And exercise and diabetes is a big one, and there's a lot of people out there, I know, they're not exercising because they've got diabetes, because they're scared that if they exercise then sugar levels will be too high and too low. And so what are some of the things that somebody living with diabetes that needs to exercise, because exercise is part of lifestyle and it's very important and it's vital. So what are some of the things that people can do if they are taking part in regular exercise? When do they measure their sugar levels? You know, when is the correct time, or when to dose, when to take extra carbs, or do you take carbs? Some studies say that after exercise, and some say before exercise, and some say not at all. So what are these misconceptions, and is this universal thing, or is it still tailor-made?
Of course, I would say diet and exercise in the management of diabetes come hand in hand. If you exercise, it really increases your metabolism. It increases and in some target tissues, it does promote the insulin levels as well. So I would say exercise should be done. It should be made as a part of routine if you're a diabetic. And like you said, when to measure the sugars. It depends, because if you're a type 1 diabetic where you were on your insulin, that time it happens that when you take your insulin dose, the sugars are bound to go down. If you exercise immediately after that, so it might be possible that when you exercise, you use more calories, and then you drop down on your sugar levels. So it's better to always eat something, a little bit of snacking before the exercise is always good, because then you don't drop out on your blood sugar levels. Because exercise is bound to burn calories, and then your sugar levels are bound to go down. So it's always good to have a bit of a snacking before exercise. Or even more you can do is measure your blood sugar levels before exercise and after exercise. So you know how much calories, how much you're dropping down, or how much is it increasing, is it fluctuating too much? And depending on that, you can add on calories to your diet, or maybe add a bit of a snack or some drink or something.
Okay. And so this is true, because we see that all the time, especially with exercise, that you can, as long as you get the dosage correct, and there's no fear involved there, you know, it's just to become more aware. The more aware you become. It's good to
take advice of your doctor. If you are, exercise is always good, as I said, but if you are prescribed otherwise by your health worker or doctor, then you must keep eye on what sort of exercise are you doing. A normal walk is fine, but if you're getting into really hardcore exercises, then you really need to keep an eye on your blood sugar levels if you're a diabetic. Yeah.
And what about late night eating and actually not skipping meals as well? Like, you know, there's a lot of people who want to rush to lose a lot of weight. They've been recommended to cut down on the calories, but not shown how to do it, or healthy way to do it, or safe way to do it. So I hear a lot of examples or scenarios where don't have food before you sleep, because it's going to disrupt your digestive system and you're not going to sleep well, so you won't lose weight. And I've also heard that you know, skip your last meal in the evening, because you will increase the rate of calories that you'll be burning. So is this like safe? Is it healthy? Is it?
There's a healthy guideline followed by not just diabetics, but mostly on a general health pattern, is that always eat a couple of hours before you go to bed. So eating late in the night and straight away hitting the bed is not a good option. And usually, specifically because you eat a heavy meal in the night. Night is the time when you have the heaviest meal. So if that's the case, then it's good to have it a couple of hours before you go to bed. Because hitting the bed straight away after such a heavy meal, which is full of carbs, fats, everything, then it's just staying there in your body. It's not getting utilized, because as you hit the bed, you're not working, you're not utilizing your calories. So that's just staying on there, and that piles up. And then when you work out, not these calories that are stored as fats in your body are utilized, but the first thing that gets utilized is the carbs.
The sugar,
so that gets utilized, and this stays there and then piles up.
I see.
And you struggle to lose weight then.
Right, and more complex carbs.
Yeah,
right?
more complex carbs.
Low in the
healthy
GI,
option.
low in the glycemic index.
More complex carbs are really good, because they take time to synthesize in the body. They take time to dissolve in the bloodstream.
Correct.
So even if you eat, and usually these foods are high in fiber, so they give you that satiety value. So you feel fuller. You eat, even though you eat less in quantity, you feel fuller. So you don't have to eat too much to make yourself feel full. And at the same time, you're gaining the proteins from it, you're gaining the complex carbs, so you're not putting on weight. So it's really beneficial.
That is a big one, actually. It's really interesting.
Yeah.
There's other myths and conceptions which I have also heard, is that there's famous bodybuilders who've got diabetes as well. So a lot of people have this misunderstanding, or this limiting belief, we could say, is that if they've got diabetes, then they can't be strong, or they can't put on lean muscle. You know, is that true for everyone, or is where, you know, these people?
Well, this, when developing like physique like a bodybuilder, you really need to have too much dedication into it, and strength is the core of it. So when it's not hard, I won't say it's impossible. It is possible, but keeping an eye on the diet that you follow is really important in this case, because you have to have, to develop a lean muscle mass, you have to have too much proteins. But these proteins can only be from the sources that are low in carbs and high in fiber. So so you shed the unnecessary fat and carbs and pile up the protein that you need to build up your body.
And lastly, let's talk about fad diets. And like there's claims that if you've got diabetes, then diets like the paleo diet, and most commonly the two big ones which are always mentioned is the ketogenic diet and fasting, like intermittent fasting. And fasting is now researched more than ketogenic diets, and there are claims that if you fast on only water for 30 days, 45 days, they actually claim that they reverse diabetes. So is there such thing that a diet, like can you reverse type 2 diabetes? Is diabetes reversible?
It's not actually possible to reverse diabetes. It's possible to control it, completely keep in control, but it's not actually possible to. There's no science behind it actually. It's just that your blood sugars would be so much in control that you actually don't feel like a diabetic anymore.
Right. See.
But it's not actually
possible. Is this what we call diabetes in remission?
Is that yeah, you can say that, yeah. But I would say fasting is not a good option for diabetics, to be honest. Because if you fast, you are actually skipping a meal.
Okay.
So, or maybe having something instead that is more in carbs. Because usually when you talk about fasting, what do you have? You have fruits or something, even in the fast. Sometimes people do have
I mean, some fasting studies cultures, is literally no food, only water. So the claims is that ultimately when there's no carbs at all depleted in the body, the only energy source will be from proteins and fats. And we know that the body will maintain a certain amount of protein because through the hypothalamus.
What happens is when you follow such diet, like I suppose the fasting ones, if you fast, I mean, you don't eat at that moment when you're hungry. And then afterwards when you start eating, so when you're not eating, the body uses the lipid stores. And that's why you feel you're shedding weight. So the fat stores are getting used. The fats in the body is getting used. And that's why you feel that you're losing weight.
Right.
But when you start actually eating something that you've stopped for a while, you're not going to fast for the rest of your life.
Right.
You follow a diet
so it's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. So once you start, once you get exposed to the normal diet that you were eating, that's when you might regain the weight if you don't keep an eye out.
There has to be a process for it.
If you don't keep an eye on what you're eating, then you might pile up the weight that you lost, or maybe sometimes double the weight you lost.
Again, two things here is very important: is sustainability, and it's not realistic. It's
realistic.
In
I feel any sort of diet you can't follow for a long term. So strictly following a diet is not good. Instead, you can make modified changes to your day-to-day life. Small changes go on a long run, rather than making big ones which you can't keep track of.
Well, no, thank you very much, Khubhu. That's a lot of information there, and a lot of myths, misconceptions, and beliefs that have been cleared. You don't need to follow any special diet. You don't need to go on any strict diet. You don't need to miss your favorite foods. You don't need to manipulate your drugs. So this is really important information, and thank you very much.
I think the bottom line about managing any diabetes would be regularity, following the regulations strictly, and routine is the basic thing. So if you follow these things strictly, diabetes is well managed.
Awesome. So there you have it, guys. These are all the misconceptions, myths, and limiting beliefs about diabetes. That's a lot of insight and information in there. So thank you very much. I hope this has really helped, and we look forward to seeing you in our next videos. Thank you very much.